Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to my 80th webinar. Today, we are going to observe the games played by Ian Nepomniachtchi. Please let me know if the sound works well. You can hear me. Can you see the board? Okay, everything is good. Perfect. Working well. Okay, fine. That's good. So, guys, the results. Actually, Ian Nepomniachtchi won that game, won that tournament. So let me share something. So this is my profile. I kindly recommend you to send me a friend request there. But I actually wanted to show you the tournament table. So my blogs. So this is the webinar announcement. And here you may find the tournament table. I actually took it from Wikipedia. So Ian Nepomniachtchi scored 8.5 of 14. So there were 8 players, and it was a double round robin tournament. But let's look at his losses. He lost to MVL, Maxim Vashyalagraf, and he also lost his last game to Dingley Rang. What can I say? So, first of all, before the last round, Ian Nepomniachtchi was already a winner, and I believe for his last game, he wasn't motivated well. That's the problem. Same thing happened to me. When I got a FIDE Master title and then played in a tournament here in Novosibirsk, I scored 0 of 5. Can you imagine it? No, maybe because I was also tired because I played 18 games in 1 month. So, but then I lost 5 to people who are not better than me. Maybe 1 or 2 of them are slightly better than me, but at least I could score 2-3 points. Okay, so, and I believe he was not motivated well. That's the problem. However, because of, I think it was Alexeyenko who won the game against Anish Giri of the last round. So Anish Giri still have his 7.5, and Maxim Vashyalagraf won his previous his last round and scored 8, so he's the second, which I think is fair because he is in a good condition. I also like how Anish Giri played, but I believe nowadays Maxim Vashyalagraf is in a better condition. Well, I was hoping that Alexander Grishuk could maybe become a candidate, a challenger, but unfortunately he didn't play well. Okay, fine. So now we know the tournament situation. What I also recommend you to do, I would like to show you, first of all, if you can't access the webinar for some reason, you can find a live stream of this webinar here in our educational group, Tricks of Chess. I kindly recommend you to join it. Okay, fine. Yeah, so how to find it? Here you scroll down, you see live webinar 79, live webinar 80, so you can join. I mean, you can just watch the stream, or you can find it on our YouTube channel. This is the link. And the other thing I wanted to show you is my website. So for those who attend the webinar for the first time, you might be interested because this is what this is where you can find more information about me. I also publish my courses. So you click online courses. I believe they are quite cheap. Coaching, where you can offer a training program. So you send me 10 of your games and I create a training program for 3 or 6 months where I tell what you should do every week. If you're looking for private coaching, you can email me at tricksofchess@gmail.com. Okay, fine. And also on this website, you can find blog with educational articles here, like, for example, 5 tips for solving puzzles. Okay, let me close it and let's get back to the webinar. Okay, there is a question from Michael. Does the second place finish automatically put him in the next candidates tournament? No, it doesn't. But I know that Timur Rajabov will be definitely a participant of the next candidates tournament. You know, he withdrew because of he was afraid of COVID, and actually, looking forward, I can say that he was quite right. It wasn't a good idea to start the candidate tournament last March. No, I mean March 2020, because of the pandemic. And they just played the first round, after which the tournament was postponed. And the second round was played only this year, in April. Okay, which games I chose? Just one more thing. If, guys, you experience any problems with entering this room and watching the webinar live, you can watch it on YouTube. So here. Okay, Pavel, I'm not sure if you are able to record this webinar. No, only for your private use. You can't distribute it because this is my property. So I publish it for free in some of my resources. If you record it, you can only use it for your own, but you can't publish it anywhere. Or at least you should request my permission. Okay, fine. The first game that I chose is the game of the first round, the game between Anish Giri and Ian Nepomniachtchi. So let's analyze why I actually chose only games where Nepomniachtchi won. Because this is where we can definitely learn of his technique, of his strategy, his ability to find best moves. So in this game, knight f3 was played. Knight f3, he played with knight f6, but actually the game transposed to English opening asymmetrical variation, c4, c5. By the way, if you guys want to learn how to play English opening, for example, if people play this move against me, I play e5 always, because I prefer to play a reverse Sicilian line like that. Then, for example, if in this position knight f3, we can play knight c6, and after g3, d5, c takes d5, knight takes d5, and after bishop d2, black in this position has two moves. Okay, I want you to tell me which two moves black can play. So bishop e6, knight takes c3. Come on, guys. Bishop e6, no. Okay, yes. Knight b6 is a good move. And bishop c5. So bishop c5. That actually Alexander Grishuk started playing on a top level which is fine. But bishop c5 requires some knowledge of knight e5 line. Or just a simple move, knight to b6. And then you play bishop e7, bishop e6, and castle. Bishop e7, castle, and then bishop e6. For example, this is what happened in one of my games when I became a Novosibirsk region champion. So knight a4 with the idea to occupy c5. I play bishop d5, and after knight c5, I played knight d4, and my opponent realized that actually everything is hanging on his side, especially the knight. They can't capture on d4. They don't gain a pawn because of a discovered attack of my queen. So they played bishop d4 was played in the game. So queen c2, something like that. b4, knight takes c5. And then finally I got an extra pawn, but was unable to win the game. It ended in a draw. I blundered it in the middle game later, when my position was completely winning. However, I've got the first place, but this guy got the second. And that was actually the game of our second round. Okay, guys, so if you want to learn how to play c4e5 English opening, you may find it in one of my courses, which is called How to Beat English Opening, which I prepared together with Grandmaster Dmitry Bocharov. Okay, fine. So knight f3, knight f6, c4, c5. This is what was played at their game. Also, one of the possible lines, knight c6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, e6, and g3. I actually like this opening because the position was sharp. However, both players knew how exactly to play. Queen b6, chasing the knight. Knight goes to b5 to threaten knight d6. What do you think now black should play? Knight e5. Yes, you're absolutely right. It's knight e5 move. This is how they attack c4 and at the same time secure the d6 square. But it's not the end. Bishop f4, threatening this knight. d6 can be a logical move, but it's not the best move. For example, d6, bishop g2, let's say knight takes c4, and then after queen a4, knight b2, queen b4, the knight is trapped. And if a6, then of course knight d6 and the queen is lost. So d6 is not a good move in that position. And of course, here Ian Nepomniachtchi knew how to play, and he played this move, knight fg4, with the idea to take on f2, as well as to protect on a5. So e3, to protect the f2 pawn. a6, chasing the knight, but h3. If now knight retreats, then the other knight is hanging. So that's why here white plays a takes b5, h takes g4, and knight c4. Rook c1 after that. So taking on b2 is too risky because after queen b3, the knight is trapped. No, if knight c4, then bishop c4, the pawn is pinned. But if knight a4, I think it doesn't work. But I believe this move is enough, threatening with knight c7. or maybe bishop. Okay, yeah, knight b5 is enough, I believe. Okay, let's go back. So knight c4, rook c1, then d5. d5 is a novelty. This move is played for the first time. Before that, queen a5 was played. So there was a game played by two grandmasters, or maybe they were just international masters. However, it's still quite high level. But after that, bishop a3, b takes c4, bishop c1, queen c1, and in this position, white is better because of two minor pieces for a rook. And later in the game, white won. So that's why this is where Anish Giri decided. This is where Ian Nepomniachtchi decided to play d5 move. The evaluation here is equal. No, it's still equal. b3. What do you think black should do? Here, black has to play the only moves, and Nepomniachtchi was prepared. Knight a5 or knight a3? What do you mean? Oh, sacrifice the knight, but which move to play? e5 with the pawn is the other suggestion, but e5 with the pawn, then knight d5 just. Or maybe b takes c4, then knight d5. Yeah, so I'll show you. e5, b takes c4, e takes there, and then I think this move is good. Queen e5 check. No, at least queen d2 is fine. After which this endgame is absolutely winning for white, I believe, because of knight c7 threat and better pieces activity, and also the b5 pawn dies. So queen d2 is good. b4 doesn't look good in this position. I don't remember why, but let's check. b4 knight a4. Yes, and they have to sacrifice the exchange. But the problem is that it's still, the c4 is still hanging, the knight there. Wait, maybe there is a better option. Okay, no, I think knight a4 is good enough. So the best move here is bishop b4. And if now he takes, then rook a3, the only move that helps black to continue playing this position. What's the idea? The idea is that we pressure on c3 and are able to gain the knight back. So, for example, queen d3 is, of course, a mistake because of this move. And after queen d2, we can, for example, do what? Put more pressure. Yeah, I think queen a5 is the best option. If they play this move, we just play f6 and e5. Like that. And I'm able to gain a piece back. No, actually, maybe even more than a piece. 5. So what to do? After this one is gone, maybe we can capture the other piece. So same thing with queen d2. Queen c2 loses. Queen c2 loses immediately. So what to play? Bishop e5 only, but bishop e5, then f6, chasing the bishop. Bishop goes to d4, so the queen is under attack. Queen goes there, hoping for e5. What do you think is the best move for white in this position? f4. To prevent e5. Actually, I didn't analyze this move. Let's decide. f4. Oh, I don't believe in it. So, for example, what can I do? I can play. I can just take on c3, actually. And then trade rooks. So e5 is a threat, but actually after queen e5, we are already threatening to take on c3. So if they take on d5, what do you think black should do? Yes, exactly. Michael, that was a good question. Yeah, if such a case, we play e5, threatening the bishop, because after the bishop is captured, there is no pieces to protect on c3. So here, black gains a piece. That's why white realized it and played bishop e2. Sacrificing the knight, he has no other choice. Bishop takes c3. Rook takes c3. Rook takes c3. So he decided to take with the rook. This is how he sacrificed the exchange. What do you think? How white should continue in this position to keep the position equal? So our suggestions are king f1 and queen d2. Not sure about queen d2. So queen d2, rook c1 works. Queen d2, rook c1, bishop goes there. And then, no, let's take and capture on c4 with our rook. That makes sense. So I think black is slightly better in this position. They are threatening to play e5 as well. No, taking on c3 means losing the c4 pawn. And here, with a few extra pawns, black is winning. So the only move to avoid this is king f1. This is where the bishop pair is better than the exchange sacrifice. So, I mean, not better, but it compensates the sacrifice. What now? For example, here taking on c4 looks good, but in such a case, white can play bishop c4, b takes c4, and then g5, threatening to weaken our king side. What then? If we play e5, they take and threaten with queen h5. So it's too risky. So that's why the best thing black can do is to play b4. But still g5. However, in this position, it's slightly better. Then e5. So, and in this variation, queen h5 is not possible because of the bishop there on e2. That's the idea. If, for example, instead of e5, we capture it there, then bishop g5. So rook g8, rook h7, and black under strong pressure. So bishop h5 is a threat, the rook is hanging, so it's a winning for white, I think. That's why here queen a2, for example, but bishop h8, and again, white is winning. So f takes g5 was a huge mistake. Only e5 works. Okay, why not castle after f6? What do you mean? Okay. So e5. Bishop c3, b takes c3. He gets the exchange back. G takes f6, g takes f6. and queen b1 in this position, which I think was not the best choice. It was much better to capture on d5 here. And this is how I believe white could equalize here. But queen b1, threatening to take the pawn on h7. Queen c7 to protect this pawn. Queen d3, attacking on c3 and threatening to take on d5. What do you think black should do? How would you play in this position? Bishop e6 is not a good choice. I'll show you a little bit later. Bishop e6, just queen c3 is enough. So now let's say bishop e6. After this move, what can be done? At least queen c3 is good. C takes d5, c2. Maybe bishop h5. Yeah, I think queen c3 is enough. So taking on c4 doesn't look good. What happens in such a case? They may take. Take there, so bishop f5 and king e2, and then f3 and e4. So no, black can't succeed with this passed pawn. So black here plays b5. Why? Because if they capture on b5, on d5, after c2, black gains a rook. King g2, c1 equals queen, rook takes c1, queen takes c1. So b5, how to play? Queen d5, for example. This is a possible move, but then bishop b7. If queen b5, bishop c6, and it's still a double attack. Well, bishop h5 is not doing much, king d8, and still the rook is hanging. If here queen e6 check, then we have to trade the queens. But the rook is under attack. So f3, b4, and with two passed pawns on the queen side, black is likely to succeed. Okay, let's go back. That's why in this position, instead of taking on b5 for d5, white captures on c3, which was the best decision. B takes c4, and black pawn center, as well as the passed pawn on the c file, looks good. The only thing they need is to activate this bishop. e4, undermining. What about bishop e6 in this position? Is it a good or not move? What do you think? Okay, so good. Actually, no, this move doesn't seem good. Why? Because it takes d5, then bishop d5, and rook h4, attacking the pawn. And then what? For example, queen goes there, bishop c4 cannot, wait, bishop c4, then just e4, and the bishop is lost. So queen b4, king f7, and now bishop c4. So, and then the position is equal. So instead of bishop e6, black decides to take on e4 immediately. Rook h4 anyway, bishop e6 now. No, the pawn on e4 exists, so rook has to take it first. And then the best option that black had was king f7. However, in this position instead, black castled with the same idea. Now, bishop takes c4, king g7. So the idea is to remove the king from a check. Now, this is the pin that black wants to exploit. If, for example, here they play queen b4, what do you think we should do to continue? Yes, exactly. It's rook b8. So then what? Bishop e6, rook b4, and after rook takes b4, it should be a winning position. We can give a check on c1. If king g2, it's queen c6. Yeah, let's do a check. So king g2, queen c6. King goes to e2. Wait, in this position, I think we'd better try just this move. So attacking two pieces simultaneously, they have to deliver a check. King h6, the bishop is under attack. If bishop goes there, it's check and check on d5. If bishop goes somewhere to a safe place, which is probably this, check. Yeah, it should be a winning position. Almost same thing happened in the game, actually. So king g7, queen to b3, rook b8 anyway. And this is where black is better. So what happened? Something like, no, rook g4 is a blunder. What about queen a4? If queen a4, then bishop d7. Queen goes to d1, and after bishop f5, they have to sacrifice the exchange. So, for example, rook g4, and bishop can capture on g4. Because if rook h4, which is the only safe place here, then what do you think we can do? We can definitely play rook b1 and win the game. If, for example, he doesn't move the queen to d1, but moves it to where? c2. If c2, bishop f5. Let's say he moves it to a3 or a6. a6. If he moves it to a6, then still bishop f5 should work. Let's play this move first. And then bishop to c6. Bishop h3, what is better? I don't know. Or maybe f5 looks good. Bishop f5 is good. Okay, yeah, should be winning position. If queen a3, let's say here, bishop d7, queen a3. Then check. If king g2, it's bishop c6. If king goes there, then I don't remember exactly, but there should be something. Maybe this, with the idea to play rook b2 on the next move. Okay, so let's go back. It's definitely winning position. That's why here white decides to sacrifice the queen. So they take on e6, they sacrifice the queen. No, yeah, first they make an intermediate check. And rook g8 here is a blunder. Then king e7. And this line of rook g7 doesn't work. King d6. And if they take, then first we have an intermediate check and capture on c7, gaining the exchange. Black is winning. So that's why in this position he just took on b3 with the bishop. And this in game with queen versus rook and bishop is absolutely winning for black. However, here black needs to demonstrate some technique, which Ian Nepomniachtchi successfully did. Queen c1 check, king g2, queen c6 check, king g1, and h5. Why this move is important? Because with the h pawn, black wants to take the full advantage of his queen, because the queen is definitely much better than other pieces when the enemy king is weak. And this is the case. If only we can weaken the king, we can do a lot of attack, checks, and maybe forks. So that's why one of the goals is to get rid of his pawn cover. Well, here, rook h4 was necessary, but rook g8 was played. King e7, rook g7, king d6, and rook h7. Well, queen f3, protecting. So rook goes to h8. e4. Rook d8 check, king e7. Well, bishop d1, trying to get rid of the queen, but queen goes to c3, threatening with queen e1, because the rook is hanging. So the rook has to stay on the d file to keep the protection of this bishop. Otherwise, we play queen e1 and take it. So that's why rook d5. What do you think? How to continue for black in this position? d3, what do you mean? e3? E3, open lines. Yes, you're absolutely right. It's time to expose the king, but not e3. However, maybe e3 works as well. H4. So the h4 pawn, the h pawn is under attack by two pieces. So we're gonna lose it anyway. Why not to sacrifice and expose the king? G takes h4. f5. two pawn together, so we are okay to stop the h pawn with king g7 moves, and we want to advance the f pawn to make the king weaker, then play queen e1, queen takes f2, and then either promote or checkmate. That's why in this position white has to play this move, but this move loses the material. After queen e1, they lose their bishop. Double attack, king g1, queen takes d1, rook g5. So the position is winning, but again, black needs to demonstrate the technique of playing such in games. The best idea that was actually implemented by Ian Nepomniachtchi was to force white into Zugzwang. And they started with queen e1, attacking the pawn. Rook g4, attacking the e4 pawn, queen b1, protecting it. Then the king goes to f6 and f5. So, for example, in this position, king f5 protecting, then a2 dies. That's why white decided not to protect this pawn and leave it as it is. Queen d5, threatening with e3 check, king f1, queen d1, king goes there, queen g4. Here, for example, king h2 was a mistake. Rook g3 was played. But king h2 was a huge mistake. What do you think can be done in this position? No, actually, same thing happened in the game. I think just queen g5 is enough. This is how we can force them into Zugzwang. Then we join the king to the attack. You'll see it. So rook g3, queen h5. So he didn't take the pawn, but could definitely take it. Rook e3, queen d5, king g1, then king joins the attack, check, king f5. And then rook g5, king f4, and rook g3, queen d5. And then you realize that they're in the Zugzwang. No, not now, but in a few moves. So queen d2, they have to play there. Queen d1. Now, rook e3. So, for example, if rook h3, then queen g4 again. Rook e3 was played, and after king f5, they have to repeat the position. King goes to h5, rook h3 protecting the pawn. Queen b1. Rook e3. So why with the rook? Because he has to play with the rook. If he moves the king, then he may lose the f2 pawn. So, for example, he goes there, then queen f1. And the pawn is lost. King g3, queen g1. So they have to play with the rook, rook e3, king takes h4, rook g3, king goes back. Now the king goes to the center, rook e3, queen d1, rook a3, and king goes through the other side. And finally, queen d3, because taking this queen was a mistake, the d pawn will be promoted faster. And the pawn is promoted. So after queen d3, they played a few more moves. So rook h3, king c3, rook g3, king d2, rook h3, king d2, rook g3, and after queen d2, there is nothing that can save the pawn on f2. So this is how Ian Nepomniachtchi successfully realized his advantage. So what you may learn from this game? So first of all, the technique of playing with extra material, because it's really hard, even for me, successfully, without any problems, win this position. So queen versus rook and bishop. Yes, technically it's winning, but you should show this technique. And then queen versus rook was another technically winning position. But I think I most like here the middle game and the opening stage of the game. So you see here d5, and he decided to sacrifice the knight, because then he understood that he could put enough pressure on c3. So this is the best thing. This is how Ian Nepomniachtchi plays, uses his tactical vision. I can say that maybe some of these moves were played by intuition, but actually, I think at this level, he was calculating everything in this position. Okay. Fine. So I understand the game is too complicated, and I didn't explain all the aspects, but let's continue with the next game. So the next game I chose is the game between Ian Nepomniachtchi and Ding Liren. Can I go back to the position when the queen was offered? Yes, I can. Sorry. But that was the case. Here the queen was offered. They took on e6 with the bishop. What was the question? On the end game. So with queen d3. Here. Yes. What was the question? Black take the rook. It depends which random move. For example, actually yes. For example, king g3 or king g1. Then yes, it's possible. Then the pawn is easily promoted. Like that. Then e2, king d1, e1. That's right. Any other questions? Okay, got it. Now the game against Ding Liren. Here Nepomniachtchi is playing with white pieces. So it looks like, okay, we can, I believe today we can cover only 2 games, but I believe the best 2 are these. Against Anish Giri and here against Ding Liren. So Jan plays e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6. So it's Ruy Lopez. d3. A more common move in this position is rook e1. Then, for example, b5, bishop b3, castle, c3, and one of the best ways, in my opinion, is to play d5. E takes d5, knight takes d5, knight takes e5, knight takes knight, rook takes knight, c6, and this is Marshall's counterattack, which I kind of recommend you playing with black pieces, especially at club players level, because after d4, bishop d6, black has a strong attack on h2. Oh, maybe this is what Ian Nepomniachtchi didn't like, maybe because he prepared another line, but he played d3. And d3, b5, bishop goes there, d6, a3, which is also not a typical move, but all these lines were played, so strong grandmasters are familiar with them. Castle, knight c3, knight a5, bishop goes to a2, and bishop e6, offering a trade. Well, taking on e6 makes sense in this position. So, for example, take, pawn takes b4, knight goes back, bishop d2, with the idea to support the b4 pawn when it will be under attack. d5, rook e1. Then we can do a knight relocation, for example. Well, the position is approximately equal. But I believe bishop e6 was a better way to play. Compare it to b4 that Ian Nepomniachtchi played immediately. The idea of such a move is to force the knight to go back, and this is how we also prevent c5, at least for a few moves more. So rook takes, knight has to retreat, bishop g5. Actually, this move is quite common for Ruy Lopez and for such pawn structures, with the idea to trade the bishop for a knight. And what do you think are two most common continuations in this position for black? Knight b8, knight d7. Yeah, knight d7 is one of the possible moves. What else? What is the other one? Yeah, so not knight e8, but either knight g4 with the idea to trade the bishops. Actually, white is fine even with this line, knight e7 and then queen e1, with the idea of a4 and taking the control over the a file. Knight d7 can be played as well, actually. No, sorry, queen d7 was played in the game, but knight d7, yeah, this is a possible move with the same idea. But queen d7. Bishop takes f6, knight f6, and now white gets the full control over d5 square. a5, trying to undermine the b pawn. Rook b2, protecting it. Oh, the rook was hanging in case of a takes b4. A takes b4, a takes b4, and bishop d8. Oh, they just didn't want white to capture on f6 and to ruin the pawn structure. c4. Knight goes to d4. B takes c4 could make sense, but in such a case, I believe white is slightly better in this position with the idea of playing b5 and creating an passed pawn. Knight d4, knight takes d4, e takes d4, and just queen c2 was played with the idea to put the pressure on the c file. How? For example, if g6, just an escape square, and also f5 is under our control, maybe f7, f5 can be played. Then c takes b5, and in the case of queen b5, knight takes c7, bishop c7, queen takes d3, and then we can capture on d6 or just play b5. For example, actually the best move is queen c6, I think. But okay, no, b5 is one. Oh, let's play queen c6. I want to secure the e4 square. Then b5, b6, b7, and so on. This is where white is better. He can create a distant pass pawn, and it's more important rather than the d pawn of black. So rook e8 was played instead. g3. Now taking the pawn on b5 and then on c7 is a mistake because the e4 pawn will be hanging twice. So g3 was played. They took, queen takes. Now d4 is a weakness, but c6, knight has to retreat. Bishop g5, still threatening to capture and play, for example, this move Then bishop f6 is good. Yeah, and bishop f4 is also a problem. But bishop f6 wins the game immediately. That's why knight e2, with the idea to capture on d4 with the knight. So here black is under the pressure. The pawn on d4 is likely to die on the next move. And looks like there is no counterplay. That's why he plays d5, to create any. Now the queen can't capture on d4. E takes d5, c takes d5. The queen retreats. No, not to c3, sorry, to b3. Of course, these two pawns are weaknesses. Let's suggest any counterplay for black in this position. What do you think black should do? No, why not queen d4? Because of bishop f6, the rook is hanging. Tried to pressure b4, but how? Rook b8, b5. Okay, Vincent, could you please remind me your FIDE ELO? Queen a4, trying to trade. No, queen a4 blunders on d5, first of all. Queen h6. Queen h3. Queen h3, rook e6, rook h6. Yes, that makes sense. Looks good, but after f4, what to do? f4 and the g2 square is protected. So let's say you play this move. I capture on d5. And what then? So you can play rook e6. You can play rook a6 actually if you want, with the idea of playing rook h6. But your bishop is under attack, so you first need to save the bishop. Or you believe you can sacrifice it. So rook h6. Then what? Rook b1, rook c1. Queen h2. King goes there, and the king escapes. No, there is a trick. Queen h3, king e1. Still fine. This move, king d2. No. So it doesn't work. Okay, Vincent has 1700. But actually, you're playing like Dingleren, and actually h5 is the best move. This is what computer recommends as well. So you're absolutely right. h5, h4, the only chance to initiate a counterplay. So the idea is to compromise the king, and this is the only chance. Otherwise, they lose. b5, h4. Why not to play h6 ourselves? You can ask me. h4. Because bishop h4, g takes h4, rook e2, rook takes e2, and after queen g4, at least this is a draw by a repetition. But maybe after queen e2, black can play for a victory. The king is too exposed. So that's why playing h4 with white pieces was a mistake. b5, h4, b6, h3. Now, what do you think? Looks like black achieved something. The king is kind of compromised. What do you think white should do to solve this problem with the king's safety? So knight f4, white. Yeah, so Brandon is correct. It's king h1, then knight g1. King h1. Then knight goes to g1, and this is how white secures all the squares that enemy queen can occupy to attack the king. So this is a very strong idea. Rook e b8. Rook fb1, bishop d8, attacking it. What do you think we should do in this position? Should we play b7 or not? b7, let's decide. b7, rook a7. I move the queen and sacrifice on b7. No, this is not a good idea. So playing b7 doesn't look good. No. Okay, you can ask me why not queen f5. No, queen f5, knight g1. Sorry. Queen f5, knight g1. And what did you achieve with queen f5 move? I think nothing. So bishop d8, and this is where we offer a queen's trade. For example, if he trades the queens, our position is strategically winning. Rook takes, so they can capture on b6. No, they can't. So bishop b6. No, bishop b6 is this move, this. And if we take, then he can do a check. Knight goes there. And after this move, I think we save. We are still playing for a victory after rook b3. No, you see, our king and knight are both immobilized. Wait, but we can actually go through after the h pawn. What do you think? How to unpin? No, actually, I think we can play better. Nobody asks us to take. We can play this move, threatening d5 and h3. So he has to play with the bishop. We take there, then go back and attack the other pawn. And after rook b5, our position should be winning. We are able to gain the pawn and play for a victory. Okay, so queen b5, they didn't trade. They played queen g4 with the same idea, queen f3. But queen takes d5. And this is where white is a clean pawn up. And it's very dangerous to take on b6. So for example, again, actually, no, it's impossible because this move, and if he takes, it's queen a8, check first. So queen g4, queen d5, and in this position, rook a5 was played. If the queen gets distracted, then queen f3 leads to a checkmate. Of course, the answer is obvious. And in this position, white could win. What do you think? They made a mistake, but actually, then black also made a mistake, and white could win the game. What do you think white can do? Well, I want you to play the best move. With white now, yes. The queen is under attack. Rook b5. No, rook b5 is a blunder. So rook b5, rook takes b5, queen b5 cannot be played. If rook takes b5, it's queen e2. So rook b5 is a mistake. Because of queen f3 and queen g2 mate, the rook on e5 cannot be taken. Yes, white queen, queen c6. Okay, John, you are playing almost like Ian Nepomniachtchi. My congratulations. However, this move is a mistake. So queen c6 was played in the board. Actually, Nepo played this move almost immediately. But that was a mistake. Queen takes rook. It's okay. Okay, guys, let me just demonstrate it. Queen takes rook, queen f3 check, king goes g1, and black wins after queen g2. So please don't suggest this move. Queen e4. Okay, playing queen e4 makes sense. What's wrong with this move? Queen e4, d takes e4, rook takes b6, rook takes b6, bishop takes b6. And if now white captures on b6, he is stalemated. d3, rook d6, rook d1. So f4, e5, but actually I believe it's a draw. Because the pieces are stalemated. That's right. So after rook a5, it's f3, threatening the enemy queen. And if after this move, f takes g4, the position is absolutely winning because of knight f4, the passed pawn, the d4 pawn is a weakness, so the knight here is better than the bishop. If, for example, after f3, the queen moves somewhere, then the rook is hanging, where the queen can move. h5 cannot, e6 probably, but queen a5. So any move except maybe this move, which leads to a trade, which is not in black favor. So any other move, let's say this, leads to a rook sacrifice. Nepo didn't find f3. Or maybe just overestimated queen c6 move. So in the game it was played rook c5 and he went unpunished. I mean, Jan. What do you think black could do in this position? Not rook c8. Rook c8, queen e8. Yeah, rook c8, queen e8, king h7, queen e4, and this is a winning position. Sorry. Sorry, I skipped a lot. So queen d5, rook a5, queen c6, and the best move was rook takes b6. What's the idea? Now queen e8 and queen, let's say queen e8, king goes there. So it doesn't make sense because queen f3 is still a threat, and if white wants to trade pieces, they have to play this move. But this position is winning for black because the knight is pinned. So rook b6, rook has to take on b6. And in this position, instead of bishop b6, which is not a good choice, but I don't remember why. Queen b6 cannot be played. Queen e8, king h7, queen e4. No, it's not good. So in this position, queen e2. But after this move, rook b8, rook e5, rook d8, king h7, rook g1, and queen f2. And the best thing that they can do is to sacrifice the rook back by playing rook h8, king h8, queen c8, king h7, they take, and this is how they avoid a checkmate, but the only thing they can get is a draw. So after queen e2, the best thing that white can get is a draw because of this line. What if bishop b6? Maybe this? No. No, actually, yes. Because if now he checks, we go there. And queen d1 doesn't, sorry. And queen d1 doesn't work because queen checks, king h7, queen takes there, and then this knight can be protected. White wins. Oh, actually, or it can be a checkmate, actually. What am I saying? It's a checkmate. So this is a winning position. And if, wait, move, go there, take, king takes, mate. So actually rook b6 is not possible. What do you think what white should do in this position? Bishop b6 seems to be a good move, actually. Queen e8, king h7, and then well, queen e4 doesn't look good. It's equal. Oh, you're absolutely right. It's f3 as an intermediate move. Yes, exactly. And if now queen e6, or what other move to play? Then we take, they take, rook takes, check, go there. But this position should be winning, because if he tries to attack our pawn, we can protect it. Or take on e6, maybe. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we do this. And if this move, just rook e1. Yes, exactly. Now I remember. And this is, of course, a winning position. The pawn cannot be promoted. So bishop b6 doesn't work, but after rook takes b6, queen e2 offers at least a draw for black. This is what Ding Liren could play, but didn't notice. He played rook c5. Maybe he was in the time trouble. I don't remember. Rook c5, but just queen check, king h7, and knight g1. Rook takes b6. Queen takes d8. Rook takes b2, rook takes b2. He pins, but after queen h4 and rook d1, white is winning. What do you think white should do? So the d3 pawn can be protected with rook b3, but actually we can sacrifice it. And if now he captures on d3, knight h3, and this position is winning because of the extra piece. The pawn on f3 cannot be captured as well because of knight g5. So here he, for example, has to play this move. But then king g2, and we developed our pieces. It's absolutely winning. Exactly. So f3 was the key move. If he plays something else, let's say this move, then our strategy will be this, then a pawn move, a rook f3, rook h3. Wait, or maybe it's better. Okay, it's better to play this move. He goes there, then we play this move. Let's first capture on d4. He goes there, we take, he takes, knight g5. Yes, and this position is winning. Should be winning. Maybe it's not the best option. No, after knight g5, f6 cannot be played. The rook on f3 is also hanging. And you can't promote this pawn with the only king. My king is too close. No. This is a better strategy. This move. I remember now. So this. Take king g2. Yeah, that should be a winning position anyway. Otherwise, my goal is to do this and this. Rook g5, rook g3. Yeah, so looks like knight g1 caused so many problems. So maybe there was a better way to play. Let's get back and analyze. So what do you think in this position? He wants to play queen g4, queen f3. Yeah, that looks like... no, we can also just ask the computer, for example. It's not Stockfish, just Diffritz 13, which is quite weak comparing to Stockfish, but definitely better than any top grandmaster. Yeah, king h1 is the best move here. What else we can try? b7, then rook a b8, but what else? Still king h1 should be played. Rook fb1 to support. No, let's go through this line. Queen g4, so he threatens. We have to play with the queen back. And after queen f3, the only thing is this. Offering a trade with rook e1, bishop f4. No, this line doesn't work because of this move. So here white is fine. So queen takes queen, rook takes queen, bishop takes knight here. And then, what then? King h7, just to activate the king, but white is winning. Queen d1. Maybe is there a better move to play? What do you think? Yes, Nepomniachtchi was playing with white pieces. So yeah, rook e7. Just rook e7 and the position is unclear. Now knight f4 doesn't make sense because the b7 pawn dies. So looks like here white has real complications, and according to the engine, the evaluation of the position is approximately equal. So looks like king h1 was a better chance, and Nepo successfully took it. You see, so from this game you can learn his defensive technique. He created a distant pass pawn on the b file, and then decided to secure the king and hoped that because of the b pawn he could win the game, which actually worked. There was no counterplay, but the knight on g1 was a bad knight. However, in the end game it could capture the pawn on h3, which is good. So nice victory by Nepomniachtchi. However, instead of playing queen c6, he could play better and avoid all these complications. I'll show you again this moment. So here he did queen c6, but instead f3, and he's winning. This is what he missed. Okay, guys, so today we only analyzed 2 games. They were quite complicated. I'm sorry that I didn't explain them in all details and didn't cover all the lines. So probably I would better use the engine during the webinar to make sure that I'm correct, because sometimes I just didn't know how to play. I did analyze the game, but looks like not all the lines. So you are welcome to join my next webinar that will be next Sunday. Also, you can suggest the topics for that webinar. If you have any questions, or if you are looking for a private coaching, you can email me at tricksofchess@gmail.com. Also, I kindly recommend you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's the link. See you.